All right, everybody. Happy New Year. Happy 2022 and happy Friday. I am super pumped to kick off the year with my friend Wendy.
Hi.
Wendy is the CEO and founder of Genie Notary, and I've been following you, Wendy, for a bit of time. And I think we ran into each other at the MBA in October, and your story is awesome. I'm super excited to dig in, so welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so as you know, these are pretty casual conversations. Of course, we want to, excuse me, with this cough, part of the
COVID.
This is how you know the date is real, because I'm fighting through the tail end of the COVID thing. We like to learn about interesting people, and certainly your story is awesome, and interesting companies, and I'm super excited to dive into both. So without further ado, let's start by talking about the company.
Yeah.
What you do, how you do it, what your secret sauce is, and how you're kind of tackling this industry.
Yeah. So Brian, thank you again for inviting me. I was following you too. I was professionally stalking you. So it's good. It's good. So my name is Wendy. I am the founder and CEO of Genie Notary Inc. So we are a nationwide loan signing service. So we have over 70,000 signing agents nationwide. We also do attorney closings, notary closings. We also do online full RON, which is remote online notarization closings. And so we do closings and we only require 1 hour notice. So because Genie Notary Inc. is a woman-owned small business, over 85% of our signing agents are women and minorities. Anyone who knows my story knows that I'm 31. And so a couple of years ago, I wanted to become a police officer. And so I was on that route. I got my master's degree in criminal justice. I was a full-time EMT. I was working as a campus police officer, and I loved the job. It was very strenuous. It's very physical job. It's very labor intensive. And so I was working crazy hours. And I loved it. But, growing up, I always saw my mom work. My mother, I named my company Genie Notary because my mother's name is Jeannie. And so,
yeah, I saw that. That's so cool.
So my mom passed away when I was 22, and that was back in 2013. And my mom, my father died when I was like 1.5, and she worked. And growing up, after her passing, I personally never wanted to just work, and then 46 and die, she was diagnosed with lung cancer. She never smoked, secondhand smoking. I always say we always knew mom was sick. She always coughed. She always, something was always up, but she never went to the hospital just because we never had health insurance, She had 6 kids on her own, immigrant, came to America. And so we couldn't afford health care. And so it wasn't until things got worse, she went to the hospital and she was diagnosed with, stage 4 lung cancer. And they gave her 12 months to live, and she died 9 months later. So I never wanted to just work, have kids, and then not enjoy seeing my kids grow up, And so I decided, after I got my master's in criminal justice, I said, you know what? I'm not happy. The job was great, but it was a lot. And I just saw myself on the same path as my mother. And so I personally wanted to do something. I have so many people in my life who hates their job. I have friends, I have family, people who just get up in the morning and is just like, I want to quit, or I want to change jobs, and never do anything about it, And I did not want to wake up one day and be, and be 40, 50, 60 and hate my job and hate my life. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. And so a year after I got my master's, doubled my debt. I changed careers. So I went from, first responder to real estate, and that's how it started. And I always tell people, they're like, Wendy, what do you do exactly? Like, oh, you do notary services. I'm like, yeah. Like this business, going out and to close loans, people don't really think about it. Like, I don't know if I'm saying this right, but in the whole real estate world, I don't think people understand the need for us. And I don't,
Right.
Like everyone talks about loan officers and mortgages and there's so many different aspects of real estate, but I don't think people really, like, at the end of the day, if you don't have someone to close that loan, it doesn't go through.
Yeah.
Right. And
well, what's interesting is in my particular case, my last 3 mortgages, they're all refinances, granted.
Yep.
But I never saw the loan officer.
Yep.
Right. Talked to the person briefly. Most everything was done online.
Yep.
And the only person that I saw face to face in my home at my table,
Yep.
taking me through the documents was the notary, the person that was sent to close the loan.
Yeah.
And my takeaway was, man, and I've been in this business for a long time, almost 30 years. The takeaway was you could do everything perfect at the mortgage company.
Yep.
And then hand this off to someone that you don't know. It's going to go into someone's home and do docs, and they could all fall apart, or that could be the experience. And so it's a very important part of the process.
It is, and I don't think people really understand. And sometimes when you are in rural areas, like for example, if you are in so I live in Massachusetts, right? And I'm back and forth, but I live in Massachusetts, and we have Nantucket, we have Martha's Vineyard, right?
Yeah.
You can't really find a notary in these areas. Right? We're there, but
I'll do it.
and I don't think people really understand. Like sometimes, you have to go catch a flight to meet the client, in Alaska,
Yeah.
or you have to go get on a boat to go meet the client. That loan will not get closed unless the lender approve, full RON. And a lot of times they don't,
Right.
And so I love what I do. I'm like, I wish someone who told me about this whole real estate, about, opening my own business years ago. And I don't think I would have been in so much debt, but, but I feel like what we do is really important, and I never want to step on the toes of, attorneys. They hate us, right?
Yeah.
I never want to step on the toes of an attorney. I always say, hey, Genie Notary Inc. is here to support you. If you can't go 2, 3, 4 hours away, I have an agent who
Right.
snow, rain, or hail will be there, and so that's how I kind of got into the whole notary thing, the whole opening the company. I just, my job was just when COVID hit as an EMT, I work 13-hour days, when you see a patient, cardiac arrest, you go and it's you and your partner. If it's raining outside, if it's snowing outside, you're it, You go when you see a baby and it's like the baby's, blue, you're it, you take patients dialysis, if something happens, it's you, and so it's a great career, but the money that I was making, as a first responder compared to that in real estate, there's no comparison, So
when you, that's such an interesting pivot, right? Because you got your master's and you were headed down a path, and so what was it that triggered the idea around real estate? Was it people that you knew that were in it? How did you kind of make that pivot?
So you know what? So I was a notary, right? I was a notary like over a year. So I was doing closings myself.
Okay.
And I was doing like 1 or 2 closings a week, and I started doing like 1 closing a day, and the money like I would make in one day, it took me a whole week to make, right? As an EMT, as a overnight campus officer. I I went to this one closer's house. So he is the CFO of Brigham's and Women's Hospital. And the man's a millionaire, right? I went to his closing. He lived in Beacon Hill, in Boston. I went there, beautiful house, marbles everywhere. And he had this book in his house. And the book was Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And I was reading the book too. And I went to his home. He was so nice to me. And he had two golden retrievers. And one was laying down. And I was talking to him, and he's like, oh, yeah, like my golden retriever just finished chemotherapy. And I was like, huh? There's chemotherapy for dogs, for animals? And he's like, yeah, like he's going to recover. He's going to be all set. And I just stood there, and I was just like, wait, there's medical treatments for dogs with cancer? Wait, dogs get cancer? I knew there was no treatments for my mother who had cancer. We couldn't afford it, you know? And so it hit me, and you know, he was talking about how like his dog is going to be okay. And it really made me sad. I was like, wow, this man is rich. He had resources, you know, maybe if she had these resources, maybe she would still be alive to this day. And I realized that like not everyone lived like me, you know, like not everyone lived in Newark, in Irvington. Not everyone is, you know, is struggling, right? And as a notary, I went to so many different homes. I did a lot of closings for so many different type of people. And I just realized that, wow, I could live like this too if I work hard and if you know better, you do better, right?
Yes.
I did not know any better. I grew up in Irvington. Well, I was born in Haiti. I came to America. I grew up in Newark. I grew up in Irvington. And, you know, I did not see certain lifestyles. I did not go into homes that had marble floors and who animals had, you know, chemotherapy. It to me was like, whoa. And then I said, oh, you're reading this book by Robert Kiyosaki. He said, yep, like, it's a great book. He says, I read that book when I was younger. He's like, my father made me read that book. So I'm like, I probably should go back and read it. So I read the book. I read the book once. I listened to the audio and I read it again. And when I tell you, it opened up my mind. It basically said, once you know the difference between assets and liabilities, how the rich think and how the poor thinks, you will change the way you think. And I felt like that book to me opened like my mind up to, I was asleep. I was sleepwalking, you know, I was 29 and I was sleepwalking, and I read the book, and the book, it's pretty basic. It just tells you about like, you know, like how to manage your money and how the poor and the middle class thinks and how the rich thinks, you know, and I was just like, wow, it's in the book, you know? And I just kept reading it over and over again. And there's a chapter in the book, and it said the author said something in regards to taxes, right? The average person, their biggest liability, their biggest expense are taxes, right? But if you open a business, you know, you could work, you know, like work around it. Well, you don't, you could work with it, right? And so I didn't know all these things. I'm like, taxes? What the heck is that? No one taught me about taxes in high school, right? In high school, you know, in middle school, like my friends, you know, like they have babies, right? And we had a daycare in our school, and I thought that was normal, right? I thought, you know, everyone finished high school and some go to college, some did it, and then you have kids, and then that's it, right? But it wasn't until I became a notary, and I saw so many people's finances, and I saw how the rich lived, and I saw how the middle class lived, and I also did debt solutions, and I saw how the poor lived, you know, and I think that once you stop, I think once you stop and you say, I want something different in my life, and you actually do it, like you say something,
Yeah.
I want to quit my job, right?
Right.
And then you
Yeah.
let it down. I'm going to quit my job. And you say, how am I going to quit my job? What I'm going to do to quit my job. And then you do it. And then people are going to think you're crazy, like you're batshit crazy, right? And then you just say, okay, I'm going to take it one step at a time. Even though it's scary, I'm going to do it. And just keep going. Just keep going.
Yeah.
And I find myself just doing things, not even thinking about them, because I feel like when I think about huge decisions in my life, I talk myself out of it because I'm scared, right? Because I wanted to quit my job a long time ago, but I'm just like, if I quit my job, you may not get another job, right? Or you may lose your benefits.
Right.
All these doubts come into play. Every single time in my life, in my company, I made a big decision, I just do it. I don't allow myself to think about it twice because I always talk myself out of it.
I love that because in too many times we get paralyzed by over analyzing and we think we're making a business decision and we're doing analysis, but we're really trying to avoid something in that process. And I love the advice of, go in, make a decision. Guess what? If you made the wrong decision, next week, the week after, you'll fix it.
In my life, I always say two things. Everything in my life is two things. It's either if it went great, it's a blessing. If it went horribly bad, it's a lesson, right?
Yeah.
I go out with someone and I had a bad relationship. Oh, dodge that bullet, it was a lesson, right? If I quit my job and I have my own company and I have people who works with me, that was a blessing,
Right.
Every single thing that happened in my life that's horrible, I'm like, it's a lesson. It's a lesson. Don't do it again. If you do it again, do it this way, And so that's what I try to tell myself all the time to stop thinking that I'm crazy,
Yeah, no, it's I love it. So here you are. Give me the time again. You're 2 years in the company, or just over a year?
Notary is a little baby. We are 1 year old. And
okay, 1 year.
So I've been doing notary for like give or take like 3 years, but I've only opened Genie Notary for a year now. I always tell people I feel like Genie Notary is kind of like Finding Nemo. It's like a little baby fish with like a little fin like swimming around and stuff, and we are trying and we are chugging along.
So a year into it, and by the way, you started a company in the middle of a pandemic. I mean, come on.
Yeah, insane. You know what, Pete? I was at the MBA Florida last year. I was at the MBA Florida conference, and I believe it was a guy. I think his name is Hadid. He was speaking at this conference, and he says every time there's a problem, there's money to be made.
Yes.
Every single time something's gone wrong, whoever finds a solution is making money off of it, right? And so COVID was horrible. COVID was horrible for this country. A lot of people died. It's really sad. However, law offices did not want to stay open past 5:01, or people did not want to travel to meet people, right? And there were people like myself who's like, hey, I'm going to use all the precautions in the world. However, if you need me to go and meet this client 3 hours away in the snow, while there's COVID, I will get your loan closed. I will do it when there's nobody else doing it. Rain, hail, snow, Christmas, New Year's, I was out there. I was closing loans. I was that agent who was out there and loan officers loved me, right?
Yeah.
I stopped. I went from being a signing agent to a signing service because I wanted to replicate Wendy Lafond around the whole country. I hated saying no to my clients when they needed to have a closing done right away. When notaries, attorneys did not show up. They're like, Wendy, can you do it? And I'm like, yeah, my 30th birthday, I spend it at a client's home doing his closing. On Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year's, every holiday, I was at a client's closing. And they're like, thank you so much. I didn't think it was going to happen. I love that feeling when someone is like, Wendy Lafond, Genie Notary Inc. got it done. Because, we are thebomb.com.
Yeah, this is so cool. A lot of people that kind of listen to us are either thinking about kind of going off and doing their own thing, or they're already doing their own thing. And I think you hit it. Go and do it, right? Just do it.
Do it. Was it Marcy? I think she's like the CEO of Empower. She was doing this, and I think her name is Marcy Davis. Marsha Davis. Yeah. She did this interview with I believe the CEO of Bank of San Francisco, Teresa. They did this interview, and Teresa said, "Do it afraid," right? I'm always scared that I'm doing the wrong thing, whether it's in professional life, whether it's going after a client, whether it's making that investment to reinvest in your company, whether it's meeting a man in a relationship, whatever I do in my life, I'm always scared that I'm doing the wrong things, right? And so I'm like, just do it, Wendy, because you never know what's going to happen if you just don't. And when I wake up in the morning, and every single person in this world, right? I always think like every single person in this world is going to die one day. Yeah. If I walk out this door and I get hit by a bus, right? Knock on wood, I hope I don't, right? And I'm like, I'm dead, right? That's kind of my dead face. So if I'm dead, I can say Wendy Lafond of Genie Notary Inc. did everything she wanted to do.
Right on.
I can say, you know what? She's not married yet and have no kids. I would like to do that, Jesus, one day. But I can say that job I hated, I quit. I wanted to get my advanced degree. I did. I wanted to buy a house. I have. I wanted to go after this guy, and I did, right? So even though it didn't work out, but every single thing in my life that I want to do, I've done, I'm doing. Even if I haven't hit every single goal yet, it's going to happen, right?
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't like it when people say, but, however, but I can't. No, just don't think like that. Say, I can. Yahoo, you always have other options.
Yahoo, yeah.
You always have other options. When I have a client who tells me no, it's what I do. I go to their competitor. Yeah. And I sell myself to them. And I got the contract, right? And so it's like when someone tells me no, I'm like, oh, okay. No, I can't do it this way, but I could do it a different way, right?
That's right.
I don't like no. I am so impatient. I hate no. And so
I love it.
I think that's good. I think that's something good about me, but it's also bad because I am not the most patient woman in the world.
I would venture to say, based on what you just shared with us, there's a lot more positives around that mentality than not. So yeah. Look at this has been awesome. This is exactly what I expected when we set this up. I can't think of a better way to start the year with kind of having you share your story, and I'm inspired by what I've heard you talk about and what you're doing, and I'm super excited to see you continue to grow your company, and just congratulations on everything, and more importantly, congratulations on the mindset. You have a unique mindset, and it will take you so far in not just in this industry and in your career, but in your life. So congratulations.
Thank you, Ryan. I really appreciate it.
And thank you again for joining. And everybody, thanks for tuning back into our FinTech Friday. And Wendy, we're going to have you back on because I could see a recurring little episode here, kind of bringing some good inspiration for us.
I'm excited. Team GD Notary all the way.
Right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.